Hello everybody, welcome to another cooking demo on Thursday night live on Facebook. Before we get started with croissants, I wanted to mention that Sunday is Pie Day. That is 3.14. We are having everything that is pie related, pie, pizza related is 15% off. Just make sure you ask at the register when you bring your items up and we'll be happy to discount it for you. We can't discount already sale price items. We have some really beautiful pie plates from Emile Henry that are on a really beautiful sale. We can't discount those further, but they're still a really good deal. And we just got in these adorable little 6-inch pie plates, which are perfect for like a chicken pot pie or something for an entree or a shareable dessert, or a dessert for yourself if you really like pie. So croissants are often considered to be an advanced recipe. My opinion of that is, if you feel like trying it, try it. It's just a recipe. It's just flour, butter. It's a lot of butter. It's just ingredients, and regardless of what happens, you'll end up with something. This weekend I made a batch and was not paying attention, so I only put in half of the butter. So I ended up with beautiful crescent-shaped rolls, not croissants, but they were still delicious and they're great for sandwiches. So my point is, if you feel like trying it, go ahead and try it, and don't be worried about that you're not a great baker or whatever. The other thing to know is that this is a time-consuming recipe. There's not a lot of work on it, but there's a lot of resting the dough. You want to make sure that you're resting your gluten so that it doesn't get too tight and it gets really hard to roll out and stuff. And this is a recipe, because we're making layers, we need to roll it out quite a few times. So when the recipe, whether you use my recipe or you use somebody else's recipe, you want to make sure that you are letting your dough rest when they tell you to let it rest. So when I say my recipe, I have adapted the recipe that's on our website from this book right here called Making Dough, which is an awesome book. I've made quite a few recipes from this book, and we'll probably be making a few more on demos, like maybe danishes and bear claws, maybe choux pastry. We might make eclairs, or that type of thing. So stay tuned, and if you like making pastry, or if you would like to learn how to make pastry, it's an awesome, awesome book. So the first thing is that you want to do, I'm not going to do it now because of the resting in between all of these steps. I already made my dough, which is right here, resting. And I'm just going to quickly go through the recipe. So important things, you do want to heat up your milk. It wants to be about 115 degrees, 105 to 115. It's pretty cold in here, so I did 115. The other thing is, you want to make sure that you heat up your bowl before you put your hot milk into it, because it'll cool it right off. So if you're using stainless steel or even glass or ceramic, just run it under a hot faucet for a little while until you can feel that it's warming up. Then put your milk in, sprinkle on your yeast, and then continue on from there. So you have your milk at about 115 degrees, sprinkle your yeast on top of that, and then you want to whisk that together so that it's dissolving. Then you add your sugar, and then you pour in some melted butter and just whisk that all up and add your flour right in. You don't have to proof the yeast. Then you're going to mix it. You can mix it with a spoon right in the bowl, and then you want to knead it for about 2 minutes or so, and then just form it into a bowl. Put a towel put a towel over it and let it rest for about 20 minutes. After it's rested for 20 minutes, you're going to roll it out into a big rectangle like this. And this is a really nice dough. The dough I made yesterday was kind of tough. I don't know why. It's still, the finished product's great. So that's another thing. Don't get frustrated. Just keep going, because you're probably going to end up being okay. But this is a really beautiful dough. And then I also made my butter block, which I made yesterday. And this is 3 sticks of butter, not 1.5 sticks like I did over the weekend. It's 3 sticks of butter. And I just drew myself a rectangle, because you want it to be a certain size. So I put it into a stand mixer with a little bit of flour, which helps it, keeps it from really melting and oozing all over the place. It just kind of stabilizes it. So I have, and you can see it's not exact to my rectangle. It doesn't have to be. So I'm going to pull my parchment off of there, and then I'm going to put this on 2/3 of the dough. So I'm leaving this space here. It has no butter on it, and the butter's just on these 2/3. And then I'm just going to gently pull my paper off. And if it pulls some of the butter, don't worry about it. You can scrape it off and put it back on. You do want to keep this refrigerated up until the time when you use it, because you want your butter to, you want it to sort of work into the dough, but you want it to stay so that your layers really show up when you finish baking. So you want it to stay nice and cold. If you're making your dough, if you're making this recipe in the summer, or if your house is super warm, you'll want to rest more often, and you'll want to rest your dough in the refrigerator. Make sure that it stays cool so your butter's not getting melty. So here's our dough. Here's 2/3 of it with butter on it, and we have some dough around the edges that doesn't have butter, and that's because we want to try to keep the butter from oozing out the sides. So we're going to take this third here that doesn't have butter and fold it over. So now we have dough, buttered dough, and then when we fold this one over, we have 3 layers of dough with 2 layers of butter in between each of the layers. So we have 5 layers right now. 3 layers of dough, 2 layers of butter. And then I'm just going to pinch these ends together so that we're going to try to keep the butter, like I said, from oozing out. And it doesn't have to be perfect. And then we're going to do the fun stuff. This was a technique that I learned from my brother, not Jonathan, who you met last week, but my brother Bill, who's a chef. And I don't know if this is true or not, but he told me that this was a Julia Child thing. And this helps to break up your butter, and it may be more useful if if you don't make a butter block, you just cut your butter into thin pieces and put it in. This is probably more useful in that case, but it's still fun to do, and if you have any aggression or any anger or anything, it's great. So we are going to just whack the dough, and so we just went diagonally, and then we're going to go the other way. And if you're using this type of rolling pin, you just want to watch out for your fingers so you don't smash your fingers when you're smashing it. I really like these rolling pins. We carry these here. I have rolling pins that have the handles on them too, and I have the tapered French pins, but for doing these, I just really love this rolling pin. So here's my dough. It's all folded, and I'm going to roll it. So we folded it this way. So now we're rolling it out because we're going to roll it the opposite way. So we're just going to roll this out into a good rectangle. You want to start in the middle and roll away, and then start in the middle and roll towards you, and the same going the other direction. And this is so much more tender and beautiful than my dough yesterday. I can't believe it. I don't know what the difference was. Maybe it was colder yesterday or something. So I'm going to go ahead and fold again. This time, just to show you, you can do that business card fold, the trifold. This time I'm going to show you what is called the book fold. So you fold it to the halfway point, fold the other side to the halfway point, and then you're just going to fold it over each other. So this time we've got 4 layers, right? I think that's right. Turn it, so that counts as 1 full turn. So roll it, turn it, roll it, fold it, and that's 1 turn. And you want to do this about 4 times. I think my recipe says 6, and I'm going to change that because the ones I made last night I didn't turn that many times, and they came out beautiful. I don't know if you can see. This one has ham and boursin in it, and you can really see the beautiful layers there. It's really, really nice. Paul Hollywood would be so impressed with me right now. So that's what we're aiming for. So I'm going to roll this out again. It's pretty chilly in here, so I'm not going to worry too much about overworking my dough right at the moment. but I'm not going to do more than 2 full turns without, and you can see maybe it is getting a little bit harder to roll. So what I'm going to do is probably rest this. And I didn't whack it again. I forgot to whack it again. That's the best part. So I'm going to roll this out as much as I can, and then I'm going to fold it and rest it for a bit. And we'll move on to the dough that I made last night, and I'll show you how to fill them. So once you do your rolls, you want to wrap this very loosely in plastic wrap. And the reason for that is it will rise in the fridge. And the other thing is I'm using a silicone rolling mat here, which is good because it's not too sticky, but sometimes it will get sticky. You can use a little bit of flour, but you want to make sure it's a flurry, not a blizzard. So as little as you can to keep it from sticking, but you don't want a lot of excess flour because you've already got plenty of flour in your recipe. So we'll just roll this a little bit more. And then I'm going to just do the triple here. And I'm going to put this aside. I would put it in the fridge, but I don't want to pull my microphone off like I usually do. So I'll put that in the fridge. So once we've done all of our 4 or 5 turns on that, wrap it loosely in plastic wrap, put it in the fridge, and let it sit overnight. So that's the other thing. You're not going to make these and eat them 10 minutes later. Again, they just need to rest and take their time. They're hard working. So this is dough that I made yesterday. And I should have taken it out a little sooner than I did, so it might be a little hard to roll. But you can kind of see the layers in here, the butter and flour layers. It's not as evident as when it's baked, but you can kind of see it in there. So this is sat out. This is rested overnight in the fridge. And I am just going to roll this as best I can, because I want to show you how to fill these. And again, if it's sticky, just a little flurry of flour, not too much, as little as you can get away with. And these silicone mats really make all the difference. We have a great one from OXO that has measurements on it, so you don't even need to get a ruler out like I did yesterday to make sure that my rectangles were the right size. So anything that you have that's helpful like that. And as you can see from the ones I did today, I am by no means a professional when it comes to rolling. I'm still working on it. This isn't something that you're probably going to master the first time you make it. But it's so satisfying, and they're always, just because they're so buttery, they're really going to taste great whether they look professional or not. They'll look homemade, and they're going to be really delicious. So you want to roll this out to about 1/2 to 1/4 of an inch, and I can almost guarantee that the dough that I made today, I'm going to get a few more croissants out of it because it's not as tough as this dough. It's just so much nicer. And now I'm going to show you a couple of different things. So we have plain croissants. Also, what I have here is I filled some with ham and boursin for a nice savory snack. And then we made pain au chocolat, which I just use chocolate chips in there. And that's usually a different shape. It's a little pillow, wrapped up pillow full of chocolate. What could be better? So we're going to cut this. And we'll do a couple of each. So you want usually nice long triangles will give you the better looking croissants, but it'll be okay. And this is a little sticky. So I'm just going to roll this out a little bit more. This is going to be a pain au chocolat, which just means chocolate bread or bread with chocolate. in my beautiful French that I don't speak. And these are, you want to use a good quality. These are Ghirardelli. And these are just going to go in the middle here. And then I'm going to wrap it this way because that side's not quite as even. And this is a little thick actually, and then you just want to lightly pinch the sides. You don't need to pinch them really hard. And that just goes on my baking sheet there. So these are pretty thick actually. And they're going to want to, so you're doing this in the morning. You've made your dough yesterday. You get up a little bit early before your family or your friends come over, and you roll out your dough and you make your filled croissants. And then they're going to want to rise somewhere warm for, I would say, half an hour to an hour, depending on how warm it is. You want them to, they don't have to be fully double in size, but you want them to be a little bit bigger. And then I'm going to try to make this a little bit more triangle shaped. And we'll fill this one with, we have some ham. And we'll just take a couple pieces of ham. And I have some soft Boursin cheese. You can use whatever you want in these, but these are kind of classic, really delicious flavors. And I'm just going, because the cheese is going to get really melty, I'm just going to wrap that in the ham and place it on there. And now with these triangular ones, you want to cut a little slit at the end so that you can pull your corners out. And then you want to roll that right up. And you can stretch this end out too. And then one of the keys, so because this is filled, because it's wrapped in the ham, it's not that big of a deal, but you kind of want to pinch your sides together and you can turn it. You also, when you put it on the pan, you want to put this little tail side down, because otherwise as it rises, it'll just flop over and open up. So let's make one more of those. I should be doing the plain ones first, but I can't be bothered to do things logically. So ham, little bit of Boursin, wrap up the little package, little slit in the end, and then, whoops, stretch your dough. And like I said, these are by no means professional looking, and I'm sure a lot of you will do a much better job than I do. And I'd love to see them. If anybody makes them, I'd love to see your finished product. So we'll just do one couple that are plain. Again, a little slit in the back, and that allows you to pull the sides out so that you can have a curved crescent, which is what you're looking for. You don't want it super, super tight. You don't want it too loose. You could also make little minis. Isn't that adorable? You make little mini croissants. They're just not going to bake as long. These will bake at, I believe it's 425 for about 15 to 18 minutes. And I usually turn them, just take the pan and turn it on the rack just so that they're baking nice and evenly. So again, a little slit in the end, stretch your corners out, roll. These ones actually look pretty good. And you've got your little corners. So here are my croissants. We're going to let these rise, and then one of us will take them home and bake them off tonight. So again, the other dough, it's going to rest. Usually it's about 15, 20 minutes. If you have to put it in the fridge, I do maybe 15 minutes in the fridge and then bring it out for another 5 to 8 minutes so that it will be a little bit softer and easier to roll. As soon as it gets too tough to roll, you want to let it rest for a little bit. And after these are risen, you want to use a little egg wash. I usually just use the egg white with a little bit of water whisked up, and you just want to really, really gently spread these puffed up, nice risen. You don't want to deflate them at all. You want to keep that nice rise. And then really all that's left is pulling them out of the oven and serving them to your friends with some nice homemade blood orange marmalade that we made last week, which is delicious. or any kinds of jams and jellies, more butter. You know, you can't have too much butter. If anybody has questions about this, please feel free to stop by, email me. I'm at louisa@acook'semporium.com. Stop by the store. We're happy to help. Again, we're open Monday through Saturday from 10 to 5. On Sundays, we're open 10 to 4. Pie Day is Sunday. Don't forget, come get your 15% off any pie related, and that includes pizza pie, cookbooks, pie tins, pizza peels, pizza cutters, pizza servers, pie servers, anything that you can think of that says pie to you and will probably be pretty flexible. And I think that's it. And again, do not be afraid to try this. You don't have to be a professional. There's no special tricky techniques to this. It's just time and patience, and don't get frustrated. If it doesn't work out perfectly the first time, try it again, because they're going to taste good no matter what. With all that butter, you can't go wrong. I think that's it. Next week we're going to do fondue and raclette, and Karen is going to be here with me again. We're going to have a good cheesy time, and we will see you next week. Thanks a lot.